Welcome to Global View. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Carole Lieberman, a renewed psychiatrist, media personality, a graduate of Université Catholique de Louvain in Belgium, and trained at New York NYU Bellevue. Dr. Lieberman has made her mark not only in clinical psychiatry, but also as an outspoken expert in the media space. Join us as we dive into the psychology behind the modern society's biggest dilemmas and a great ready for a no-holds-barred conversation with one of America's most compelling voices in mental health. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Lieberman, you have frequently discussed and actually you diagnosed the TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, as a real psychological phenomenon, something that reflects a psychotic fixation rather than a reasoned political disagreement. Now, what led you to recognize this as a legitimate psychiatric, more than psychological condition, rather than a political label?
Well, first of all, we've been talking to some degree about TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, for years since his first time in office, but it has never been as prominent as it is today. Even you could kind of understand it if it was during the campaign, and it was. But after the campaign, he is president. You may not like it, but that's not going to change. And yet people are being totally outrageous. I call it an irrational, quasi-psychotic hatred of anything Trump, resulting in rage and over-the-top efforts to destroy him and his work. So, the irrational and quasi-psychotic hatred is the important part. In other words, it's not just that people don't like his policies or what he's done so far or, any of that. It's that they get so outraged, so irrational about it, and do such irrational things. Of course, there's many different levels of it. There's lesser cases, less serious cases, and then there's the more serious cases. Less serious perhaps are the people on TikTok, who just speak out about it. And I mean, some of them are just look like they should be in a psych hospital. But I mean, because they're just go so crazy in saying, and and the thing is that they're not saying anything like, oh well, I really don't like the fact that he's closing the borders, or oh well, I don't like that they're looking into where the money is going. Just something sort of rational. No, it's just like hysteria. And then of course, there are other more serious cases. For example, now what's happening with Tesla, the places that are being the showrooms or the stores that have Tesla, and people who, even individual people attacking cars of individual people, in garages or on the street. And another example, I mean, I've started to post some examples. Yesterday, there was it was a story about a woman who had been on a New York subway, and she saw a kid. I mean, he was probably he seemed like maybe he was college age, and he was wearing a MAGA hat on the subway, and she was in the same car. And she just went ballistic, yeah, calling him a racist. You're a racist. And she was just getting more and more worked up. And he said, no, I'm not a racist. And I don't know what nationality he was or what ethnic background, but he wasn't Caucasian. So he was trying to make the point, how can I be a racist? So and then it came to a stop, and it was his stop, and this woman got off the train, even though it didn't seem like it was her stop, that she had planned to get off at that stop, but she just ran after him, and she was running, and she tripped on the platform and just fell on her face. And I mean, but imagine, just being that upset about it. And what are some other, oh, well, the interesting thing is that there are differences between men and women. as far as Trump derangement syndrome. Um, Men, the reason why men have it is not so much because of policy, even though that's what they may say, they may give an example of a policy that they don't like. But really it has to do with Trump being sort of Trump being intimidating because
Mm.
he is kind of hyper. You can comment on it. He's being kind
Yeah.
of hyper. He's hyper masculine. He's hyper successful. He's hyper powerful. He's done a lot of things in his life, not just success with real estate, but television shows and all kinds of things. And he's really very intimidating to some men. And
Mm.
so Tim Walz just recently, you may have read that, Tim Walz has just come out and said that the reason why he didn't win is because he is too intimidating. He's too masculine. Now, like, hello, what world are
No,
we
that's
living
not
in?
the case.
That's not the
That
problem.
absolutely.
So, but with women, it's more like, they'll speak to sometimes they'll speak to a particular issue and say that they like feminist issue, and they'll say that they don't like that.
So basically, he's a paragon for everything that a massive segment of the U.S. population has been indoctrinated or brainwashed to believe is evil and against what they think is normalcy or a part of whatever decorum uh, they've been, told is proper and what's not. That's dangerous. I certainly think that. I mean, this is obviously your expertise, but I think we could draw a linear line between this attempt to rewrite history, tearing down old statues, dividing society, calling somebody that looks like Donald Trump evil, while somebody that might look like Barack Obama a saint, even though if you actually look at the policies, if you look at the man and what they actually did while in office, you could really argue that Barack Obama was one of the worst presidents in modern American history. He killed thousands and thousands of people in numerous wars and drone strikes. He was just horrible for the economy, and he really divided American society. While Trump is bringing peace, he's bringing stability, he's bringing economic prosperity. He's actually trying to unite Americans, but the media is characterizing him into this beast that you have, I think, expertly diagnosed. So it's really fascinating to see how brainwashed society is. Do you think so? The question I have based on that little context and just what I'm learning from what you're saying is, do you think the responsibility is with the media to really change this rhetoric, not only for President Trump, but for his supporters, or do you think that this could lead into something more dangerous down the line?
Well, part of why it is reaching ever greater heights is because during the campaign, Democrats were saying all these horrible things about Trump, and that he's going to put people in concentration camps and all kinds of crazy things, and the media um, uh, accelerated that, emphasized that, and um, so that has become a big problem. But you know what's interesting, you mentioned Obama. I think he was the absolute worst president in America. In fact, I used
Yeah.
to be I'm very I- before 9/11, my main subject was media violence, in terms of, there are studies upon studies that the more media violence you watch, particularly violent video games, the more aggressive you're going to be. So
Mm.
I also used to talk about guns, that people shouldn't have guns, or shouldn't buy their children toy guns. Anyhow, when Obama came into office, I stopped talking about you shouldn't buy guns, because, it finally dawned on me what the Second Amendment is really for, that, we can't just count on having a president who's going to love America. And people like Obama, it's a very dangerous kind of situation. But anyway, I came across a clip the other day where Obama was talking at a rally, and I'm not really sure. I want to track it down. I don't know if it was Trump's rally or something. Anyway, he was saying Trump is always, did you ever notice Trump is really preoccupied with the size of his audience, the size, how big it is. Like he was trying to say, you know, how that reference to the male organ, like, you know,
Yeah.
like he's that Trump is so concerned about that the number of people who attend his rallies are going to determine for him, yes, I am big, you know. But it was funny that Obama, I don't know if you ever heard that rally or saw that interview, but it was really funny to see Obama do that.
You know, that's funny. And also when we talk about this Trump derangement syndrome, this affects not only Donald Trump. I mean, it's not the only one to be demonized, but everyone who supports him or associate to him different ways, like through initiatives, political, you know, activism as well, or banally an X account, you know, supporting the president. Now, I experienced on my skin unhinged, hateful people, relentless in targeting and stalking me, and they don't even know who I am, but they seems to have like a genuine hatred. So can these people be treated at some point? I feel for that.
Well, I'm putting together a whole, you know what the DSM is, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's like a dictionary for psychiatrists. Um, and it was written by the American Psychiatric Association. I was involved some years ago in putting together the definition for schizophrenia, you know,
Yeah.
different kinds of schizophrenia. So committees meet and they look at research and so on, and they put together these diagnoses. And so I'm putting together sort of putting together a definition and talking about symptoms and so on in the format of the DSM. Not that I think that they would ever accept that, because the American Psychiatric Association has become woke. They published a book about trans, about why it's good to, have people, to put people through transitions, to do anything for people to have to be the opposite sex of what they are biologically. So I don't think they'd ever, really put this in, but I'm going to talk about, so one of the things is treatment. And depending upon how severe the syndrome for a particular person is, you know, one of the things you can't do is logically talk to them. Like in therapy in general, part of it is helping people to see the reality of whatever it is that they're thinking that isn't real. Um, and um, but with people with TDS, you can't talk to them logically. It's not logical how they're feeling and what they're doing. So I think for men, in any case, the only thing that I think, well, that stands a chance of working is to get them to understand how they feel so small, how they feel they have low self-esteem. And that's why somebody like Trump, who has accomplished so much and now he's the president and all that, how they don't like that, because that makes them feel even smaller. And that's why they hate him. It's just because of their own self-esteem, not really because of anything that Trump does. I mean, because the thing is, I mean, he's only been in office for 50 days or something like that, but he's already doing such good things between the border and looking into where our money is going, because we're on the edge of bankruptcy. So he has many other things. I actually was at the inauguration and I saw him signing signing the executive orders. And so really, if people looked at what he's been doing so far, or what he plans to do, you couldn't say that this is not good for America, you know? Um, so that's why I say it's not logical. Now, if people are feeling a lot of anxiety, that is usually I mean, I'm not a big fan of giving people anti-anxiety medication because you get addicted to that. But depression, perhaps giving them antidepressants. Psychotic, yes. You might, if all else fails, you could try antipsychotics. I mean, because so far the worst thing that I've heard in relation to the worst symptom, the worst thing that people have done that have TDS is swatting.
Oh,
They're calling on for various Republicans,
yes, we
people
saw that.
yes, and that somebody can die, inadvertently, but the police say come on out, and you come out and I mean, if they're told that there's a killing going on in your house and you come out, they could kill you, thinking that they're doing the right thing. So that is so far sort of the worst that symptom, or the worst thing that people are doing when they are totally um, caught up in this.
Absolutely, and it's a crime. We should start punish these people, and mental illness, in this case, of course, shouldn't be, excuse to anything they do. They should pay and be punished for what they do. Do you think this is Donald Trump became a sort of scapegoat for all those people frustrations in their life and accomplishments, and so it's easier to blame Donald Trump or someone they have no real connection with, just to lash out all this frustration, hatred. It's like a collective psychiatric condition that identifying one man who happens to be the president, the scapegoat.
Yes, yes, I think that is definitely part of it. When we came out of COVID, um, a lot of us were very disappointed. Like we were expecting some beautiful new world, and it really didn't turn out that way. And a lot of people came out very angry. I mean, there's a lot of damage that was done during
Yeah.
the lockdowns and all that. And so, not that that's Trump's fault, but yeah, people are just angry in general, angrier in general, and so they're putting that towards Trump.
Well, let's go. I want to compare and contrast for a second about Obama, because you mentioned how Trump is a very successful alpha male and he makes a lot of these people insecure, and then women have their own issues with him. But the way Barack Obama and his wife and family were presented to the world was a very successful guy, articulate, beautiful family, but there wasn't this hate against him being a successful family man, articulate, Harvard educated person. So why didn't you have this type of reaction towards Obama?
Because Obama is black.
I see.
And, this was supposed to be a moment, a crowning moment in American history, that we show that we accept people of all different backgrounds, all different ethnic backgrounds. And, and hope and change, he used to promise. He was a good salesman.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, I want to forward a little bit to RFK Jr. and how he's handling the situation regarding mental health, diets in America. Do you think he's doing a good job? If not, how would you advise him in his role that he's in today?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to fix. He's just starting out, and there's a lot to fix. I think right now, he's having to first overcome um, the barriers. Everybody in Trump's cabinet or administration, the people that he put into different positions, they're having to overcome this resentment or this anger towards them. There are people trying to stop everybody's work on all sides. Of course, trying the judges trying to stop Trump and the border things, and I mean, and RFK Jr. is having the same sort of problem, that people, just because, I mean, it is part of TDS. It's just because they're connected to Trump, this must be horrible. And then of course the people, I mean, big pharma is against, um, uh, you know, people criticizing vaccines. They're scared of that. They're scared of all the money they're going to lose. So different people have different things that they're trying to protect. So like with RFK Jr., um, he's trying to get food to be healthier,
Hmm.
for companies to stop making fake food. um, because it's all these chemicals in it. Uh, and so there are people who don't want to stop putting fake stuff in there because that's how they make money. So it's like going up against the people who have their own interests at heart. They're not really looking out for the majority, for the to better people's health. I mean, it's so sad that so many people have been made ill because of the vaccines. And I mean, you hear, it's been crazy, like um, especially people who are relatively young, and they're coming down with all these problems, like heart problems and blood clots, and all these different things that have to have come from the vaccine.
Mm.
um and it's just really sad. So he's not against all vaccines. He tried to make that clear, but nobody, a lot of people don't want to hear that distinction. I mean, he's not saying that he's against the measles vaccine. And with the border being open, it's not just crime that came through, but also people with illnesses that we got rid of years ago, and they're bringing it in, like the measles in Texas and all that.
Hmm.
Yes, it's so true. And, there is this massive brainwashing. And on the other side of the Trump derangement syndrome is that many conservatives are afraid to talk their political views. So, how can we protect our mental health from the constant fear of being attacked, swatted, just because, we believe in common sense?
Yes, there is that. I mean, you don't want, like, I've thought about it. That now, I mean, I've been supporting Trump since he ran in 2016, on my radio show and just all different interviews and all kinds of things. And I mean, it started occurring to me that I could be a target, but I'm not going to stop talking about this stuff because, but what's more important is the well-being of America. And it's just kind of a risk that you take. I mean, hopefully there will be severe punishments and people will realize that it's not worth it to do things, whether it's blowing up Teslas or swatting or whatever. But I mean, I at the beginning I said, when he first was inaugurated, I said, well, people who don't like him, it'll just take time. When they see all these good things that he's doing for America, they'll be happy that he's president. But it's not happening so quickly. And um, I mean, it's not really letting down. It's not quieting down. In fact, in some ways, it's getting louder. I just read about uh, a something at a Tesla dealer in Los Angeles, a protest in front of a Tesla dealer with all these signs, about Nazis. And I mean, it's just I mean, I don't nothing is really gonna, maybe when they see that nothing is gonna change, they won't keep doing that. But it's gonna take more than just waiting around for them to realize all this stuff is good, because again, it's illogical. It's not about whether how good it is.
But do you think that somebody who has it in them to go and blow up a Tesla or to be crazy and scream at the top of their lungs, the way that we've seen numerous people, or to do some other violent act or psychotic act, has it in them already? Or do you think that Trump derangement syndrome is a catalyst that creates this type of psychosis? Basically, is there a cause effect, or
Mm.
which is the cause and which is the effect, is the question.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I don't think Trump is able to, or Trump derangement syndrome is able to create,
I see.
be created in someone who is who is more logical and more kind-hearted and more uh,
Mhm.
doesn't have a lot of anger in them already. So yes, I think it's a catalyst for what people are feeling. And this is a, like you were saying before, like this is a something to direct it to, you know. Um, but I think if someone, um, you know, I think if a different person, I don't think any Republican who would have been elected president would have been able to create TDS.
Mm.
Someone who is less out there, you know, Trump is in your face in a good way, but somebody who was more um, meek wouldn't have created such a reaction. But then again, they wouldn't have been able to do all these important things if they're going to be quieter and softer and you know, not be. I mean, Trump is trying to do things so quickly, and I think in part unconsciously, if not consciously, it's because he's afraid of being assassinated. And he has
Mm.
so much he wants to do that he's kind of, not that he's first thinking of these things now. He had a lot of time to think about
Mm.
it before he got inaugurated. He had these things planned out. But but I think, you know, so that's how he's able to do them or try to start to do them so quickly. But but you know, and that's part of it too, that people, a lot of people are uncomfortable with change. And here are so many changes that are being put on the table every day. It's something new. He's doing something else. And that alone makes some people uncomfortable.
It looks like they can't give him credit for anything objectively good, like the end of the war, trying to, promote peace and prosperity for everybody. So it looks like there is a form of psychological warfare that is targeting conservative movements. You think this is happening, or it's just just Donald Trump, or there is a wider problem of targeting conservatives?
Well, I mean, there was a division before Trump. Well, I think it's just been getting worse and worse.
Mm.
And I think uh it started with, well, I mean, you know, Democrats and Republicans have always been against each other, but I think it started getting louder. Maybe the first term, Trump's first term, like between Trump and what's her name, Clinton. um, you know, that was a bit. There were a lot of people, like a lot of women. I didn't like Hillary Clinton,
Yeah,
but
neither.
but there were a lot of women who wanted her to be president just because she was a woman.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's when things started heating up, you know.
True.
You know, about this whole cause and effect and just how society has been molded to fit into these various agendas and groups, do you think that big pharma as a whole is a negative contribution to society? Because it seems that under the Trump administration, obviously with the RFK Jr. Nomination and the confirmation process, there was a lot of fear that he would not even be confirmed because of his consternation or his opposition to a lot of this big pharma stuff. So, as a medical doctor and as a psychiatrist, what's your opinion to the many people that are probably going to watch this program that are interested in what big pharma means in the 21st century, and should they look at alternatives?
Well, you know, it's come out with COVID just how greedy. I mean, not that that's necessarily the first time a big pharma was ever greedy, but I think we're more aware of it now, and less. Uh, you know, it's less about. I mean, of course, we need we need drugs. Let me take that back for a minute, because as a psychiatrist, I am very much against what has happened to psychiatrists,
Mm-hmm.
where they have become pill pushers. You know, instead of doing therapy with people and maybe giving medication when it's necessary for certain things, but instead, they've just, you know, people now, you go to a psychiatrist and you think, you know, you're going to just get a prescription, and that is not working. In fact, people are being put on so many different medications because when they come back and they're not better, the psychiatrist just throws more medication at them instead of doing therapy.
Mhm.
So anyway, but why did I start? Oh, just the pills. Yes, I mean, pills have medication has helped a lot of problems, medical problems. So it's not all bad, but like I remember, when I was in my psychiatry residency, um, I used to go to a lot of American Psychiatric Association conventions like every year. And I remember one year, um, they had the people who were presenting say, they had to say whether they got money for their research from whoever gave them money for their research. And it turned out that so many of them were being paid by big pharma. And lo and behold, isn't it interesting that the medicine that Big Pharma was paying them to do research on came out to be some wonder drug? I mean, which really wasn't true. But and that just totally
Mm.
turned me off. I mean, I couldn't believe, I guess that was the beginning of when I started realizing that not all psychiatrists um, are in it to be helpful, or I don't know, I'm sure they rationalize that what they're doing is helpful, but it's just kind of like you have, what when I was in medicine and in psychiatry in my residencies, um the big pharma would send around drug reps, and they would give us all kinds of things. They'd give us pens and pads and pizza parties. And it was starting in the earliest years, to addict us, to get us on their side. And I don't think at the time, I didn't think it was bad. I mean, that's cool, we're having pizza today.
That's cool. Like the treatment, I like it.
But then of course have come to realize over the years that this is all part of the indoctrination to get us to use their drugs. So yeah.
Dr. Lieberman, this was such a fascinating conversation. I have one last question on my side. If you had to prescribe a drug to people suffering from derangement syndrome, which drug this would be?
Oh, that's a good question. um uh, well, I was saying, like, that it kind of would depend upon what their main symptom. If they were paranoid, I would prescribe
Mm.
an antipsychotic, for example.
Mm.
But so if they were depressed, I'd prescribe an antidepressant. I said with anxiety, I don't prescribe anti-anxiety medication because it's addicting.
Mm.
Oh,
So and the treatment is therapy. Well, the treatment for everything is therapy. Um, plus some medications for some, like with psychosis, schizophrenia, manic depressive illness. Obviously, those are the major psychoses, and you do need an antipsychotic. So I'm not saying that therapy alone would treat the symptoms sufficiently for, let's say, a schizophrenic. No, but that should be part of their treatment.
thank you so much. Where people can find you?
Well, of course, I'm on Twitter. Dr. Carole MD. Carole is Carole. And I have a website, a few different websites, but one of them is terroristtherapist.com.
I like that.
Terroristtherapist.com. And I have videos on there that I created, music videos about terrorism and about October 7th and all that. And I think, and other things too. So I think people will find that interesting.
Absolutely. And I invite everyone who's suffering the condition to seek help and to educate themselves. They can live better life without this constant anger. And, people who are the victim of it to understand this phenomenon and, treat it as it for what it is, a mental condition.
Yes, absolutely. People should, they should be able to recognize it
Yeah,
and go for help.
absolutely. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on Global View.
Thank you, Carole. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.